So, good day, colleagues from different regions around Asia, Pacific Asia. Today, Maya and I, you know Maya, yesterday she made a presentation. We will deliver several presentations for this update of the BPM. So we have 5 sessions today that will go a little bit deeper in some topics already presented in the presentation yesterday. We will have a break of 15 minutes after the third lectures that we have for today. And then I will start with the more general overview of what is coming in the BPM 7. Then I will go for cost-cutting themes. Maya will be explained in detail what is coming new in the current and capital account. And then I will be in charge of what is the financial account. No? And we will split it, this presentation, by functional classifications. So, as usual, please feel comfortable to make questions in the chat, or if you would like to raise your hand and make orally your presentations, we will be more happy to receive your questions, your comments also, not necessarily your questions. We would like to know how you will see this implementation, how is the approach that we are taking, especially about the new topics that we are included in the BPM. So if no additional comments regarding the presentation, I will move to the first presentation, that is main features and outline. So we discussed several issues that we present in this slide. No, Carlos yesterday mentioned to you that this is a more or less cyclical update. It takes between 15 years. The last one, BPM 7, was published, as you know very well, in 2009. This is when I joined to the balance of payments, so you more or less know how many years of working in this area. This, as was already also included in the presentation yesterday, is coming with a very nice, I can say, characteristics. We have a very tight coordination with our colleagues in the national accounts, because we want, you know very well that the umbrella of all the methodologies is the national accounts, and consistency is very important, starting from the concepts and definitions that we would like to use for these two frameworks, but also in terms of some inconsistencies that were in the two frameworks. Now we are getting closer and closer, and actually some of the chapters that are included in the BPM 7 are totally prepared by the two teams, in a very close collaboration. This is an update with full coordination. As I mentioned to you, also increase the collaboration of other statistical domains. With this presentation that we have yesterday from Sanjeev, that is a very demanding work to put together in this glossary all this terminology. And remember, if you remember well, it was close to 7 or 8 institutions that participated in the elaboration of this glossary. After that, as it was in the previous BPM 6, will be coming the update of the monetary statistic manual, the external debt manual, and the government finance manual. And so it will be very useful for this update, and also for the translation. Is super important when we will translate these documents to the different languages that we are planning to use for the translation. So it's super important to have this harmonization in terminology. As you know very well, is a long process that start maybe 4 years ago when we set up the research agenda, when we start listing all the topics that we wanted to include in the update. And it was a back and forth in all the BOPCOM meetings to try to balance, no? Because we can bring very interesting topics, but it will come with a lot of effort from the compilers, maybe in terms of resources, time. Well, very important for us to try to balance. So those topics that are relevant and important to bring in the BPM7, but also don't create a lot of burden in terms of resources for the compilers. So let me go to this link. Hopefully it's working. Let me see. Let me try if working, because I wanted to show to you. This is also a recommendation from one of my I think, let me see how I can share this. Maybe I can present to you this link later when we finish my presentation, because I don't want to create a problem in the presentation of the slides. But this is a web page where you can see all the chapters that I will present after these slides, where you can see that follow different stages, no? The draft of the outline, then we move to finalization of the draft, the outline, the preparation, the writing of the chapters, and you will see that all of these are going to public consultation. So if you have the opportunity to check and provide comments and clarifications to this version of the chapters, is the moment to do that. So it is a public consultation. You need to register. We can go through this link that I have here, because you need to register, provide your comments, and everything will be retrieved by us and checked together in the team, editorial team, if the comment can be included or not. So we have for all the chapter and annexes that will be in the BPM7. So for this preparation of the chapters and annexes, it was during the preparation of the guidance notes that are actually the first documents that we work. It was the introduction of some surveys, because we wanted to taste the waters before bringing to the document. And there were some surveys, maybe some of your country were consulted. We wanted to gain experiences from countries that already work from different issues that we wanted to include. So it was a sort of an extra work, not only the preparation of the guidance note, but also checking with some compilers how will be the topic and the recommendation or the options that we decide to be included, be part of the BPM7. So as we mentioned yesterday, there are important topics: the globalization and digitalization. We are living in this value-added transactions and digitalization, all these e-commerce, digital trade, that are important to expand the scope of our compilation in external sector statistics. So you will see during the presentation that these emerging phenomena in terms of these two topics, globalization and digitalization, are expressed in the BPM7, generally, not always, is through supplementary presentations, either through memorandum items when relevant, if we wanted to include in the standard presentation, or with the preparation of supplementary items or additional tables. What is coming this integrated framework is not new. No, you know very well that it was always encouraged in the BPM 6 to link positions and flows, either transactions or other changes, to prepare a more consistent presentation of the external sector statistics. But for the BPM 7 is upgrading the preparation of these integrated frameworks. It would be part of the standard presentation. So will be the center of this manual. It's very important to have the story totally presented. No, it's not only transactions. It's also very important to see the link between these transactions and the positions, and also the link with the other changes. We will talk a little bit more in detail about this in the presentations that are coming. And of course, as I mentioned to you, we have our research agenda that includes several topics. I remember it was a big document listed with many topics. We couldn't bring all of them. Some of them will be probably for the next version of the BPM, BP8 is already included in this slide. But even though it's not totally presented as it was in the BPM 6, remember, if you remember that in several parts of the BPM 7, we couldn't provide a total recommendation how to treat, how to classify it, because we mentioned something like it will be discussed in the research agenda for the next BPM. So maybe in some topics we will have the same expression, no? Because there are topics that are not totally developed. For example, the case of crypto assets. Carlos mentioned to you yesterday that for those without liability, the crypto assets will be treated in the capital accounting, non-produce, non-financial. But if we had this presentation some month before, the recommendation was totally different. That's to be included in goods. So this evolving situation probably will affect some of our presentations. So I hope you can understand the situation, because it's an evolving situation. So this is more or less what are the main features, and let me move to the chapters that we will have in the BPM 7. I put this slide you can see here that I put all the chapters that we have in the BPM 6 currently. We have 14 chapters. Now in the BPM 7, we will have 20 chapters. We have 6 chapters more. And those are more or less connected to the new topics: digitalization, globalization, informal economy, etc. We will see what are those. Those who are in red are update expanded chapters. The title of these chapters will change. In a sense, will be the same in terms of content, but with extensions to try to bring all these new topics that we are included, but it will be always the overview of the framework, the accounting principles, the economic territory, institutional sector, residents, functional categories, international investment position. There is an accommodation of the titles to include the expansion. We will see that. Those, we mentioned already yesterday that the chapter 10 that used to be goods and services account now is split into chapters. We will have one chapter specifically for goods, and we will have one chapter specifically for services. Then we have chapter 11 and 12 that we used to call primary income and secondary income, and we will rename. And we mentioned those names also. And then we'll have, of course, chapter from 15 to 18, and the chapter 20, the new chapters in the BPM 7. So let's talk about these new chapters. So I mentioned to you the integrated framework is taking a lot of relevance. We changed the title of this, not only to the overview, the framework, but to try to put the emphasis in the integration of positions and stocks. The accounting rules, because this integrated framework also is more specific in the discussion of flows and stocks, plus the discussions about the accounting rule. This is a chapter that is jointly prepared by the team of the BPM and SNA. Residence is a economic territory was the name included previously in BPM6. Now we are moving to the residence because it's the concept that is very important. Economic territory is important, but resident for us compiler of the external sector statistics, we know very well that is everything that is related between non-residents and residents that needs to be included here. Then we move to the classification, financial assets and liability will be the same functional categories. Also the same functional categories will not come any new functional categories. The balance sheet is a terminology that is commonly used in national accounts, in government finance, and we want to use the same terminology when we talk about the international investment position, because international investment position is not other thing than the presentation of other balance sheet. So I mentioned to you that chapter 10 will be splitted to have only topics about goods account, and then we have the services separated, and we have the new names for the primary income, earned income. This is also to be more adjusted to other statistical frameworks. Transfer income account will be replaced the secondary income account. Capital account keeps the name, and then here in brown you will see all the new chapters. Yesterday we talked about the globalization and the utilization in depth. So it's not much I can say to you. Maybe I can mention something later during my presentation. These are two chapters that are prepared also in collaboration with the SNA colleagues. The Islamic finance is having a new chapter. As you may know, this is try to collect information about the Islamic financial institutions that offer some conventional finance and Islamic finance that are based on different principles. For example, there is these transactions needs to be ruled by the Islamic law. For example, there is some prohibitions for the use of interest. There are some special treatment for excessive uncertainty, and of course, gambling is not something that can be considered in the Islamic financing. So for these specific characteristics that we have, there is, of course, an Islamic financial standards bodies, the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution, and we have, of course, the Islamic Financial Services Board. All these new specific characteristics for the Islamic finance will be included in this chapter. Then we have this chapter of informal activities. Remember that in the BPM6 we mentioned that everything that is related to illegal activities or related to shuttle trade needs to be included in the balance of payment. But we didn't go further than that. So we have in the national account a chapter that is totally complete to the discussion of non-observed economy. And we made some efforts in trying to see how this informal economy is present in the external sector statistics. There were some initiatives, especially for the Eurostat, to put together some information and trying to find some definition what we can understand for informal activities in the external sector. So all this initiative, and also some of us, we have 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we tried also to compile some information about illegal transactions in tobacco, alcohol, and other different activities, and we posted in our IMF website. So we know there are many economies. My country, for example, Peru, have a lot of activities because we have a lot of countries, neighboring countries, and there is a lot of activities that not necessarily go through their regular channels, costume, information, etc. So in some countries, especially, for example, I don't know if we have colleagues from Nepal, they have big activities with India, and the same for Vietnam, with China, for example. So we want to set up a better recommendation how to bring this information in our external sector statistics, and this chapter will be dedicated based on the information that we have in the national accounts to produce better guidance for informal activities. Then the communicating, the chapter 20, that is also a new chapter. This is something that was discussed yesterday with Sanjeev, and the idea here is to put emphasis in how communicate with user, how produce a policy for communication and dissemination strategy, and there will be discussion issues about confidentiality of data, metadata, and how to align to other standards, for example, the accounting standard, the accounting statistical standard, and different other topics that can be help compilers and users of this data to understand the BPM 7 and also to have a better use of the data that we produce. So this is a very interesting chapter that is expanding what we normally used to have in the BPM 5 or BPM 6. No? It's very important to have different policies for the revision, for the dissemination, because what is trying to bring with this chapter is how important is transparency. This is something that we recommend during our technical assistance missions, that you need to provide an institutional framework, the proper regulation for the compilation and dissemination of data. So I think that the chapter is with this idea. So these are the chapters that we have here. And before going to the annexes, I would like to see if somebody have any doubts, comments. I don't know if we have something in the chat. Maya,
There's
you
nothing
can
in
help.
the chat. No, there's nothing in the chat.
Okay, so maybe we can continue, and then after presentation we can see if somebody have any doubts. So in the same as I did for the chapters, I wanted to present here what we have for the BPM 7. So we have 9 appendices in the BPM 6, and now we are moving to 14. It will be a bigger document that we will have with the BPM 7. I'm not sure if it will be a printed copy, but in any way, we will have more pages than the BPM 6. And in this particular case, it's the same as is happening with the chapter. We will have some update in the titles. We will have separated chapters. We will have the Appendix 6, for example, that included Section 6A, direct investment, Section 6B, financial lease, Section 6C for pension scheme, and standardized warranty. We are splitting this in different annexes because the coverage increases, and especially for direct investment, and we wanted to have a specific annex for each of them. Then we will not have a specific annex for multinational enterprises. It's a remove like an appendix, but will be included. No, multinational enterprises are a very important topic, especially in direct investment. So it's embedded in the manual, but we will not have any specific annex for that. And then we will have a new annexes that are not new topics, are were annexes of different chapters in the BPM 6 because they increases in importance. We decided to create some specific annexes to them. So we will see which are those. And then, of course, we will have some new annexes with new topic as well. So it's very important to remember that this Appendix 9, that is a popular Appendix 9 because it's actually the tables that we produce with the standard presentation and also the supplementary tables and the memorandum items will be the chapter 14. If yes, this chapter 14, we will see that we also include the standard presentation and other supplementary information. So let me go for the first 7 annexes. Annex 3 is related to regional arrangement and change the title. And then we have a new annex, the select issues of cross-border trade. This is an annex that is related to trade in goods and services that are outside the core balance of payments accounts, but are relevant for compilers and users of the balance of payments. So this will include, for example, classifications of trade statistics, some discussion about prices and volume measures, will include some digital trade figure, conceptual framework for digital trade. This is related to the handbook on measuring digital trade. We will include also section for international trade classification by the currency table. This is a supplementary information. So this is a new annex that will include this. Then, as I mentioned to you, Annex 6 will be related only to direct investment. And then we will have a new annex, the selected financial issues that will go deeper in the financial derivative and reverse transaction. Let me move to the next slide. Insurance pension is separated in its proper annex, excuse me. And then we will have this new annex, dispositions and transactions with the IMF. This is not a new topic. It was an annex of chapter 7 because this topic was included in chapter 7, but now it's presented as a new annex because more discussion about whatever is related with the IMF, especially for those countries with the program, are interesting to see. Annex 10 is a new annex, and This is intended to support data compilers on the type of data that can provide to users in regard to climate change. It does not intend to present a framework because we don't have a framework specifically for this topic yet, but we'll present some items from the balance of payments and IAP and possible additional breakdowns that can be relevant for understanding the risk that climate change pose, financing related to addressing this climate change, impacts that this can take, and everything that can be related mainly in the exports and imports of goods and services. So then we have this Annex 11 that is also a separated annex that was included of a section that was included in chapter 4 in the section F2. That the idea is to put more emphasis in the counterpart information. You know, for those of you who compile the Coordinated Portfolio Investment Survey or the Coordinated Direct Investment Survey, the most important, and actually the IMF is unique in compiling this information, is relevant to get information of the counterpart of the investor or the holder of these financial instruments. So we are trying to put more relevance in this and also to bring some discussions that is related to the partner economy. We will see a little bit more of this in the next presentation as well. The other two chapters, 13, 12, are more or less. So of course we will have an explanation what are the specific changes from the BPM 6. And then the chapter 14, the Annex 14 is the important annex that will replace what we have in Annex 9 in the BPM 6. So this is a very quick presentation of the what we will have in the BPM 7. And I don't know if we have questions.
Yes, there are some questions in the chat. So I think one of them is already answered regarding, is there an annex title changes from BPM 6? Yes, there is a annex with this title. There is a question, can chapter 12 be renamed as earned/expensed income account? Correct me if I'm wrong, these names are already in line between SNA and BPM manuals, but we will go to the editorial team regarding this question anyway, regarding this. So thank you for this question. We will go to the editorial team. The same question from Bank of Pakistan, also questions regarding, is there any guidance on sources of data that can be used to collect data related to BOP? If we are using ITRS and it is not sufficient, then how can we complement it with other data sources? I believe there will be, oh, sorry, yes.
No, Maya, please.
No. So yes, there will be a compilation guide update as well, but we will first have BPM 7 published. Okay, there's some also, yes, there is a question regarding net international reserves concept. Will it be included as a chapter or appendix on BPM 7, as mentioned in the guidance note of NIR, that NIR concept will be included in BPM 7? This is a question from State Bank of Pakistan.
Yes, we will have a presentation of that in the financial account, but it will be a definition of the net reserve. Yes. The
and
BPM 7 will include a definition of that.
and
Yes.
there is also a question regarding activities of multinational enterprises. Why there was why was it removed? Appendix 4. Why was it removed? And will there be a recommendation on compilation of foreign affiliate trade statistics, activities of multinational
Yes.
BPM 7? Yeah. Okay. So these were the
Yes.
questions. I think we covered.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Maya. No, it's not like the multinational, you will see multinationals throughout the BPM 7. So because it will be a proper discussion about the participation of these multinationals, especially in direct investment. That's why there is an expansion of the direct investment. We will have a specific annex for direct investment. It's very well connected to other topics, so we can try to figure out why it was this decision, but I'm pretty sure that it was because this topic is already reflected in many other chapters. Globalization is also in the financial accounts, is in direct investment. So maybe there was not a need to repeat again everything that was already in different parts of the BPM 7. But we can also raise this issue with the editorial team.
And so this is all for the questions now, at least in the chat. But if somebody has a question, they can also raise a hand and ask, please. Is it there? No,
Maybe we can move to
we can
the
go
next
with another presentation.
presentation. Okay, so let me close this presentation and let me go for the next one. Please. Oh, I don't know what happened. Oh, no, I did something wrong.
No, we can see it. Yeah, it's fine.
No, but this is not correct. Something I did wrong. No, let me try again. Excuse me for that. I'm at this time of the day. It's a little bit difficult for me to. Where is this present? Now you can see it.
Yes, we can see it. Yes.
Let me start here. Now it's okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Maya. So now, as I mentioned this is the second topic, and then here we will go through different cross-cutting themes. And let me start with the outline for this presentation. Some of them we already mentioned here. The idea is to discuss more from the point of view of the balance of payment compilers. So we talked already about the sectoral breakdowns. We talked about the partner economy in my previous presentation, the special purpose entity that is the start of different presentation here and is super relevant. And we will see some differences with other macroeconomic statistics. other cross-cutting issues, and then some supplementary items. So let me go to the next slide. So the most important thing is to try to understand that BPM 7 provides flexibility for compilers to include further information on different topics that we consider are the value for analytical purposes. So the idea is to provide compilers with different tools to explain better what is happening in your economy and what is happening in your economy with the rest of the world. So there is flexibility in that sense. Also, as you can see, some of the recommendations we will have here are extensions from what we already have in the BPM 6 as a core framework. But in other cases, you will see that are going beyond what we present in the BPM 6. These are representation of the new annexes and the new chapters that we have. And also, as we say already several times, will guide us as a compilers in different new areas, no? Informal activities, globalization, etc. And of course, and the most important thing is encourage compilers to use this guidance. We will never uh, um, put the pressure in the compilers to compile all the information, all the items that we present in the BPN in general. Always our approach is the countries will move to their particular pace and hoping that they are doing the best effort to try to compile the information. So you can create a plan when you move to BPN 6, and you can create a plan when you will have to move to the BPN 7. Compilers will choose topics based on their importance within the economy and the structure of this economy, the policies that are relevant for your economy, and of course, always depend on the data availability. So there is this approach that we have for the BPM 6, and we will repeat here in the BPM 7. So now I would like to get back to some, this is not new, but I would like to get back to this because it will help us to understand better how the changes for the BPM 7 are coming. So you know very well that we have standard items and we have supplementary items. Within the standard items, we have standard components that are those that are part of, fully part of the framework, but contribute to the total and the balancing items. That's why we have the current account, the capital account, the financial account, errors and omission, and all these companies inside of different accounts will help us to have the different balance items. This is what we will call the standard components. In most of the cases, will stay. There are some changes in terms of the preponderance that we would like to have, but in general terms, we will have more or less what we will have. For example, we will have fintech is not a new financial instrument. We will continue using the same financial instruments. In some cases, we like to reflect what of the financial instruments are involved in fintech activities. Or for example, the case of the SPEs. No? There is not a specific category that always we can produce of which that can help us to distinguish what are the activities related to the special purpose entities. Memorandum items are also part of this standard presentation, but are not used in deriving the totals on balancing items. No? Examples are the interest for fee sim, before foreseen or implicit financial services. For a different case is for the supplementary items. These items are outside of the standard presentations and are compiled depending on the circumstances of particular economy. Examples are remittances and transfer for non-for-profit units. As I mentioned to you before and also yesterday, BPM 7 will mostly introduce new supplementary items. This is the main characteristic. For the next presentation, we will highlight in light blue all these new standard items. So this is something that already Maya mentioned yesterday. Non-financial corporation, household, and non-for-profit institution serving household was one only category. Now, as a standard component, we will recommend and highly encourage countries to split this in non-financial corporations and the rest, which is household and non-for-profit institutions serving household. It's very important the presence of activities in these non-financial corporations, and this is why the decision was taken to identify better what are the transactions and positions of this subsector. And this is also something mentioned yesterday for the other financial corporations, monetary market funds, non-monetary market funds, investment funds, insurance corporation, pension funds, other financial intermediaries. And remember that before we have financial auxiliaries separated. Now we put it together in one category. And other financial intermediaries can also, if relevant for the countries, produce of which central clearing counterparts. Data for central clearing counterparties could be compiled off of which, as I mentioned to you, for the data for SPEs, as it's not included in the slide, but it also will be of which for different items, for deposit-taking corporation, for other financial corporation, non-financial corporation, and they will be produced if compilers consider is played an important role in the country. So this is what I would like to mention to you in this slide. Then here for direct investment, remember that we used to produce our direct investment following the directional principle, and this is what is here in the bottom right part of the slide. When we talk about direct investment, indirect investment enterprise, direct investment enterprise, what we call reverse investment, and all this relationship between fellow enterprise, what the decision taken was to keep this information. It's not removed from our presentational, but will be de-emphasized and will be included in the direct investment memorandum and supplementary items for direct investment. The purpose of presenting the direct investment as a standard component using the sectoral classification as is done, for example, in the portfolio investment and other investment, is to align the direct investment to the presentation that we have in this other functional classification. This presentation applies to the financial account and the presentation in the international investment position. So it's not that we are not considering the directional principle is relevant. We will continue having our collection of data for the coordinated direct investment survey that follows the directional principle. Is only that we are giving more relevance to the asset liability presentation and the sectoral presentation. For the partner economy, I mentioned already something about the decision of bringing this on better position in the BPM is because BPM 7 is putting more enhancement to the analytical value of publishing this data by partner economy. And we will have this type of presentation for goods, for services, direct investment, and remittances because it's closely related to migration between the two economies. So it's relevant to know how the remittances are moving from one economy to another. And this probably may require from the compilers different estimations. Also, supplementary information in the case of direct investment will include information for the ultimate investing economy and the ultimate host economy, as well the identification of pass-through funds. We understand that this partner economy data collection is not an easy task. It takes a lot of efforts and resources only to produce the CPIS and the CDIS, but the BPM 7 will elaborate on some cases where the data by partner economy may be challenging. So cases, for example, for the good on consignment and economy of origin, or merchanting and other global manufacturing arrangement, and intermediation services and contracting, and securities, transactors, debtor assets held, and securities under reverse transactions will have a place in the BPM 7 with, that will explain the potential challenges that will face the compilation of this type of information by partner economy. We mentioned a lot about these special purpose entities, and we know that between the BPM 7 and the BPM 6, it was a lot of information that was developed. So now remember that we have guidance for the special purpose entities. We have a decision tree for special purpose entities. Not only that, we have an important number of countries reporting data on special purposes to us. So the BPM 7 wants to reflect all these efforts, no? The definitions, the guidance, and the guidance for producing this data in the BPM 7. And also, as I mentioned to you, this is not part of the standard presentation, but will be of which identification for SPEs. It was a big discussion during the preparation of the guidance notes. And one of the comments when we prepare this note for the special purposes was to expand a little bit more to have this nationality-based framework for direct investment statistics that will consolidate pass-through funds by nationality and the multinational enterprises, with the idea to provide information on who makes decisions, who receive the benefits, and who bears the risk associated with these funds. Then the nationality-based framework will complement the existing residence-based framework that we use for the special purpose entities, which identifies the financial claims and liabilities that are held. This proposal of the nationality-based for SPEs statistics will change the attribution of pass-through funds for legal residents to the ultimate owner. So this multinational discussion, as you can see, is touching different parts of the BPM 7. Yesterday, we talked a lot about the globalization, about the intellectual property, and the intellectual property also will be related to these unit special purpose entities, and the BPM 7 will include discussions on how these SPVs will be treated when are related to intellectual property products. Other cross-cutting issues are this fintech. I mentioned to you already that we will not have a specific instrument for fintech related. We will continue using the financial instruments that we have. What we will recommend the economists is to have an of which category when you consider that is relevant to identify these activities in this area of fintech. For financial services or for insurance services, it will be when you consider it relevant to include an identification of which. For crypto, we already mentioned yesterday that we have two types so far. We are producing also, let me give you a break before talking about what we have in the slide. We have a team in our division that is comprised colleagues from the national accounts, from the monetary statistics, balance of payments. Included, we have colleagues that are working outside of the statistical area, but in other areas of the IMF, that is that colleagues are working from a money market area, that together we will planning to produce a guidance note for crypto asset. And this guidance note will include, of course, methodology, the treatment in the different areas, and we will include also country cases. We will include guidance for the identification of mining, that is not only the transactions in crypto assets. This mining activity is more in the national account than in the external sector. And we include some recommended questionnaires that you can use when you will approach to different enterprise to collect information about crypto assets. So hopefully we are moving little by little, but hopefully soon we can have an outline, a concrete outline for this guidance note, and also will probably present for public consultation the different parts of this guidance note. For the crypto, as I mentioned to you, we have two different areas. Those that we have counterpart liability and those without a counterpart liability. An example of this without counterpart liabilities are the Bitcoin, that, as you may know, act as a general medium of exchange. We have a separate category, and it will be included in the capital account. I think that Maya will talk a little bit of that. This is a new standard component. And for those that they have a counterpart crypto asset that have a counterpart liability, they will treat in the financial assets. And the classification will depend on the nature of the crypto assets. And sometimes will be in deposits, sometimes will be in other different financial instruments that include in the financial account. Then we will have some supplementary presentation for trade and investment income. We will recommend to have a goods trade by enterprise characteristics, services by enterprise characteristics, investment income by enterprise characteristics. This is relevant because it will be an important link to business registers. And also we will recommend some supplementary information that is related to the globalization. For example, we will request the production of information about the characteristics of the industry, the characteristics of the ownership, domestic foreign control, and the size of the firm. Also, we will continue about the currency composition of some categories, and we will request as a supplementary information currency composition for goods, currency composition for services, with a split of domestic, foreign, domestic and SDR basket, domestic SDR basket, and other currencies. When it's not possible to identify the currency, an allocated item will also be permitted to be used. I mentioned to you the Annex 9 that is intended to support all this climate change topic that is very relevant right now in many countries. Even El Niño, for example, in many countries around the world will create different problems in the amount of export, imports, etc. We need to reflect that. And this new item will include information about the geographical and industrial sector breakdown of direct investment. Introduce a separate table for the environment, social, and governance related of which categories of the IIP and BOP, as presented in the Annex 14. Also, will touch base on international cooperation grants for low income that suffer different issues related to climate change. And also, this is very related to the work done in the G20 DGI Data Gaps Initiative version 3, recommendation 4, in terms of all the data gaps on several policy challenges: climate crisis, increases in economic polarization, large scale in the digitalization transformation. So all of these, of course, are encouraged to be produced, but always considering if this is relevant for the country. This is the last slide. Maya, could you help me to see if we have?
Yeah, we have one question regarding sectorization. Maybe I can take it so you can have some break. The question goes, it's from the Central Bank of Pakistan. Insurance corporations and pension funds are a combined category so far in MFS, but these are shown as, but here are shown as a separate in the slide. Are we going to see a change in financial sector categorization in SNA and MFSM, or is just presentation in BPM 7? Well, yes, in SNA, there will be a classification based on type of financial services. So insurance corporations will be S128, pension funds 129. But I believe in previous SNA, so current SNA, these two institutional sectors are already subsectors of financial sectors. So in SNA BPM 7 will be in line. Hope this answers your question.
Thank you, Maya.
Great. Yeah. Apparently it did.
No, but I like the question because we can notice that actually we have colleagues in this group. No,
Yeah.
they know very well SNA,
Sectorizations, yes,
sectorization, etc.
in different statistical manuals. So yes, thank you for the
Exactly.
question.
Thank you very much. And of course, if you have additional questions, you can send us this information later,
Yes.
because sometimes to digest all the information that we present is not very easy, no? And then the ideas are coming later. So feel comfortable to reach us anytime when you have any doubts about the presentations. I think that you will receive the presentation, so you can go through with your colleagues in your units to see how you feel. Actually, we can go about this question later, maybe to get an impression. How do you feel about this update? Maya, I think that is your turn.
Yes, I will now share my screen.
Let sharing.
Okay, thank you. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, I can see your screen. It's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, excellent. So welcome from my side. This is the second day of our outreach seminar. And as Rita already said, I will be discussing current and capital account changes in BPM 7. So basically, I will cover chapters which are dedicated to goods and services account, former primary income and secondary income account, and capital account. So to start, as Rita already mentioned, we will have two chapters instead of one, which will be dealing with goods and services. So chapter 10 would be a goods account chapter, and the new manual will follow the same structure as it was in BPM 6. As you can see on your on the right side of the screen, there is so the main categories in a goods account will still be there as standard components. So we will still have general merchandise on a balance of payments basis, net exports of goods under merchanting, and non-monetary gold as the main components of good account. But we will have several additions regarding of which categories. And those, let's say, additions will be mainly related with global manufacturing arrangements, which will be in more detail discussed in the chapter 10. Also, the new thing in the BPM 7 will be the emphasis on publishing table regarding reconciliation of data on goods account. So reconciliation between IMTS data and goods based on balance of payments methodology. And as Rita already mentioned and Carlos yesterday, there will be a change in recommendation on recording of crypto assets without controllability. So previously it was recommended that they be classified in goods account, but during drafting, it was decided that at this moment they should be classified as non-produced, non-financial assets, which mean that they will be recorded in capital account. Main new items in general merchandise will be inverse merchanting and trade of finished goods under a factory-less goods production. And I will explain in the following slides what we mean about with the FGP phenomena. But what is new with merchanting? So merchanting was something that was already there in BPM 6. And classic merchanting, as you already know, is a situation when a merchant resident in country A buys goods from a resident in country B and resell it to another, to a resident in country C. So this is the classic one, and the goods never crosses the border of the country A. But now we will have a new type of merchanting included and explained in our BPM 7 manual, which will describe situation when a merchant in country A purchases goods from a resident of another country and resell it to another resident of that other country. So goods will never leave the country where buyer and seller are, but this country, in our example, country B, will need to record this as exports and imports of goods. This will be a challenging part for country that, where the inverse merchanting is happening, because goods will never, there will be only movement inside of the country. They will not be crossing customs borders, so data sources will have to be adjusted. As said yesterday, valuation of exports and imports of goods will not be changed. So we will, in BPM 7, keep the FOB valuation, but it is recommended that between BPM 7 and BPM 8, countries test observe the transactions value as a new concept. This means that in the BPM 8, this will be a standard. So we will need to, as compilers, to find data sources to have information on invoice value of goods. As you can see, in the structure of chapter 10, there will be some sections with no significant change, and we are talking here about general merchandise and merchanting and non-monetary gold. So basically all the items that were included or excluded from general merchandise, the concepts will remain the same. Just as well with general special trade system, time of recording, valuation, as said a few seconds ago, will be the same, just and also a treatment of re-exports. But there will be a new section in the goods account chapter, and it will relate to global manufacturing arrangements. In BPM 6, this part was not covered because this phenomenon started to be important after the BPM 6 was produced. There were several papers regarding global manufacturing arrangements, but this wasn't a part of BPM 6, and now we are introducing it as a new section. So in the BPM 7, there will be more clarification on adjustments of data sources. Also recommendation on which kind of informations should be given to data users. In the previous slides, you saw that we have several of which categories relating to global manufacturing arrangements. Regarding valuation, there will be exception here from the FOB valuation because it will be very difficult to determine. So transaction prices will be used for global manufacturing arrangements. In the BPM 7, there will be several diagrams showing and explaining different types of these arrangements. And of course, there will be a decision tree, which will help compilers in distinguishing whether the certain situation corresponds more to traditional merchandise trade, to re-exports, processing, or factory less goods production. So factory-less goods production will be the new thing, and in the BPM 7. And I would like here just to focus a bit what the FGP exactly is and why it seems to be a topic that needs to be in more details explained. FGP so factory-less goods production is a situation when a principal outsources the whole production. For example, we have a principal in country A that provides know-how, IPPs as a result of research and development, to a contractor C and has no connection with physical production of goods. Contractor in country C buys goods either from domestically or imports it from another country and is the owner of those physical inputs. And the contractors in country C transforms these inputs into a final product, which after the production will be sold to principal A. Principal A is basically controlling the production in a sense that they're giving the blueprints and they have demands on what kind of products should be imputed in the final product. Principal A also decides to whom this goods will be later on sold. And usually it happens that from contractor C's country, final goods go straight to the final buyer in another country. So goods never cross the border of country A. This is why this is a bit confusing sometimes because it has similar elements with manufacturing, services, and with merchanting. So, for example, if we look from the perspective of country C, we can say that this might be a manufacturing service because contractor is basically making some goods based on orders from another principal, from another company. But to have this classified as manufacturing services, ownership of the goods cannot be with the contractor. It has to be manufacturing services on physical inputs owned by others, which in this case is not a situation. So this is not from contractors' perspective, it's not manufacturing service. Just as well, somebody can say from the perspective of country A, this could be considered as merchanting because country A resident is buying goods from another country and then selling goods to the different country. But the problem here is that principal is involved in the production and is providing significant value added to the final product. They're providing IPP, and merchanters are not involved in productions. They're basically reselling the same final good from one unit to another. So this also is not merchanting. That's why this is a new category of global manufacturing arrangements, and we have to, and in this more modern world, it's very common to have these situations. What do we have to do as BOP compilers? Well, if we are country C BOP compiler, there is a need to adjust, let's say, from whom to whom goods are sold, in which country the export is done, because although physical movement of goods is from a contractor to a final buyer, the buyer of the goods from contractor is basically a principal. So there is a need for adjustments regarding direction of exports. As for principal A, there is a need to adjust IMTS data by including information on imports of goods from country C to country A, and exports of goods from country A to country D. This data will not be available through customs data, so the only other data source that you could use, or one of the best data sources that you could use, is enterprise survey. The second thing that will be very important in the new BPM manual is the emphasis of reconciliation table between two statistics. So it's very important for data users to understand why do they have different figures when they look at data on IMTS, on exports and imports of goods, and BOP data when they look exports and imports of goods. So to provide these data, BOP compilers will need to, or it would be strongly recommended to classify these adjustments by valuation, so CIF-FOB adjustments, for example, also to show the adjustments which are arising from change of ownership. As you already know, BOP is following change of economic ownership, whereas IMTS is looking at physical movement of goods. Also, it will be recommended to separately show as an off-which category if those change of ownership is due to global manufacturing arrangements, especially if in those countries this is an important economic activity. And also we have some other conceptual adjustments that are making methodological differences into statistics. So this is on the goods account. Regarding services account, also we don't have any big conceptual changes, but there will be some changes due to globalization and digitalization. And let's say we adopted the main categories to the new reality. Classification will remain mainly product-based, but as in BPM 6, there will be some services that will be on transactor-based, so they will concentrate on the person or on the entity that is providing a service or receiving a service, and they will, beside the component of service, have also a component that is related to goods. Those types of services are travel, construction, and government goods and services not included elsewhere. Also, there will be some additions and broadening, or let's say broadening of definitions of some services categories in order with an aim to improve correspondence between BOP services classification and central product classification. As you already know, in BPM 6, this alignment between CPC and BOP was already done, and now CPC will also be updated, and BOP will follow these changes. Regarding standard categories of services, you see that we don't have any more 12 standard. We have now 17 main standard services categories, but mainly this is a question of presentation and moving some services categories in the first level. So our former category of telecommunication, computer, and information services will be split into two. So we will have telecommunication services on one side and computer and information services on the other. Further split will be supplementary component. This is something that Patrick already discussed yesterday. Cloud computing services and data and databases will be part of computer and information services category. Other business services will become different types of other business services, which are already presented in BPM 6 and relate to research and development services, professional and management consulting, trade-related services, operating leasing services, and technical and other business services will now become first-level standard components of services. Regarding manufacturing services and physical inputs owned by others, within Chapter 11, the services element will be defined and in more details clarified, but also this will be connected with parts in Chapter 10 regarding global manufacturing arrangements. Also, there will be explanations regarding supplementary recording of related good movement in manufacturing services on physical inputs owned by others services. Regarding changes for the use of intellectual property, there will be clear definition of IPP services, IPP as a concept that will reflect the reality. So artificial intelligence will be also part of IPP, and there will be a further clarification on outright sale, purchases and other transactions related IPPs. And I won't repeat myself. I was yesterday telling about the defining economic ownership of IPP and decision tree on deciding who is the owner of IPP and MNEs. Regarding travel, also something that I've touched upon yesterday. There was a discussion during drafting process whether package tours should be classified as a new product or not, or we can let's say find already existing class of services. And after the discussions and consultations, it was decided that package tours are basically not a new product, but a basket of at least 3 major services, and it needs to be unbundled and accordingly recorded in core elements. So package tours consist of services themselves, so transport and accommodation, so a basic travel service, then a service provided by the tour operator, and a margin of the travel agency selling the tour. Also, there will be additional explanation regarding health and education related travel. So a scope of medical reasons will be broadened, and it will be in line with the definition of health and medical care from international recommendations for tourism statistics. Also, there was a question raised on how to treat expenses of companions, of patients, or students. And it was decided, and it will be clearly stated in the new manual, that these expenses should not be included in health or education related travel, but in the other personal travel. Also, currently we have some inconsistency between SNA 2008 and BPM 6 regarding CIF and FOB treatment for insurance premiums and insurance services for freight insurance, and this will be clarified and harmonized in the new updates of manuals, these two manuals. There will be some additional clarification for financial services, as well as discussed, as we already said yesterday, there will be no separate sector for fintechs, so they will be classified in already existing sectors. And just as well, financial services that they're providing will be classified in the financial services. So there will be no new services category if, for example, fintech is providing a lending service. It's a financial service. There will be some practical examples and compilation issues solved regarding margins on buying and selling transactions in BPM 7. Also, factoring as a service provided by a specialized companies, factoring companies that are basically buying trade receivables from producers on a discounted price. This fee that they're earning will be classified as financial service. Also, there will be an explanation that we cannot have negative FISM, as that would mean that we would have a negative output, which is conceptually wrong. Regarding insurance services, there was a question raised during the drafting period whether a hybrid insurance services, which have elements of both life and non-life insurance, should be treated as a new category, or and how it should be recorded when a country faces with these types of services. Sorry, it was decided at the end that we will not, let's say, include another category in our services items, but the compilers would need to make a judgment whether this hybrid insurance has more elements of life insurance, and then the recording will be done in line with the recommendation also set up in BPM 6, but and remained in BPM 7, or whether this hybrid insurance has more elements of non-life insurance when the claims and premiums will be recorded in current transfers. Similarly to fintechs, if an insurance service is provided by InsurTech, there will be no new service category for this, but it will be also recorded under insurance and pension services. Intermediation services, especially digital intermediation services, will be in more detailed explained and defined. So fee-based digital information platforms will be defined as a intermediation service enabling transactions between multiple buyers and multiple sellers without the intermediation platform taking economic ownership of the goods or rendering a service that is being sold. And these type of fees will be recorded under trade-related services. Also, reference to services merchanting, which was given in BPM 6, will be deleted because conceptually we cannot have merchanting of services, as rendering and production of services should have been done at the same time. Also, some new types of service, types of delivering a service that were blooming during pandemic, like telehealth and teleeducation services, will not be a part of a new category, but will be included in the other personal, cultural, and recreational services, or better to say, already existing type of service. In the BPM 7, we will adjust definition of government goods and services not included elsewhere. For the part of the services that were already defined in CPC, so Division 91, that is corresponding to public administration services, and Division 99 corresponding to services provided by extraterritorial organization. Also, in the new manual, there will be some supplementary breakdown regarding construction services. As you know, construction services is one of those transactor-based services, which has component of goods as well as component of services, and it will be recommended to have separately shown construction goods and construction services. So we will have two separate chapters for goods and services, but as Rita already said, these two chapters will not be the only chapters covering goods and services. In chapter 15, regarding globalization, there will be many examples and a detailed explanation regarding trade of M&Es and trade by enterprise characteristics. Also in chapter 16, regarding digitalization, also trade in goods and services will be one of the topics. Then we have a special chapter on informal trade, and there will be several annexes which will also cover some issues on cross-border trade. The new thing in the BPM 7 will be that there will be an emphasis on more detailed information regarding trade. So it will be very important to have data on trade by invoice currency, data by partner countries, and as I said, trade by enterprise characteristics. So this is regarding goods and services accounts. We will have a renaming of primary income account, and this is in line with also names in SNA. So primary income account will be now called earned income account, and there will be some changes within this chapter and in some concepts, especially regarding treatment of super dividends for direct investment. Then regarding the let's say de-emphasizing of direct investments relationship. So this breakdown by direct investment income in direct investment enterprise, reverse investment related income, or income between fellows will become memorandum item instead of a standard component. Also new things in earned income account will be renaming of compensation of employees to remuneration of employees. This is also something in line with SNA. Regarding super dividends, there will be a change of treatment for direct investments. So super dividends for direct investments will not be, let's say, recorded as it was in BPM 6. So if there is a distribution of earnings from accumulated earnings from previous periods for direct investments, this will not be regarded as withdrawal of equity, but it will be part of income account and recorded as regular dividends. For portfolio investments and investment funds shareholders, this will not be the same treatment. So for those two parts, any irregular or extraordinary payments of dividends will be considered as withdrawal of equity. Also, this is something that will remain as in BPM 6, exceptional distribution, both for direct investments and portfolio investments related to sales of assets will be recorded as withdrawal of equity. As said yesterday, I will repeat it again, recording of portfolio investments, reinvested earnings will not be a part of core account in BPM 7, but it will be a strong recommendation to compilers to capture this phenomena and show it as a supplementary item. Also, there will be some additional clarification of calculation of reinvested earnings for collective investment funds, especially for those expenses that are treated as being paid by the shareholders. Regarding interest, this is something that will be also renamed. So we will not have interests as a concept, but interest and similar returns, so that we can include the broader interest-like returns, especially in Islamic instruments and countries where this is a significant phenomena should record this as a subcategory, so that this would be shown in the investment income. Something that was happening during a couple of crises between two manuals will be explained, and this is the possibility of having negative interests. And this could happen, and this should be recorded as negative expenditure if it's payable, or negative revenues if we're talking about negative interest receivables. Um, uh, so this is something like we have with negative reinvested earnings. This is something similar will be a treatment of situation when the dividends and interests are paid securities under a repo arrangement, because although there is legal change of ownership, there is no economic change of ownership. So the unselling take when if unselling takes place, there should be a recording of negative interest and dividends in the credit revenue part. So regarding chapter 13, secondary income account, it will be also renamed to transfer income account. Structure will be more or less the same as in BPM 6, but there will be some further clarification on how to record some transactions that could be both current, they're very close in definition with the capital and current transfers. Time of recording for fine and penalties will be clearly stated, and I have touched upon this subject yesterday. But also there will be a clarification in a case when a government is receiving funds regarding compulsory payments of taxes for non-transferable licenses. This will be treated as a regular treatment of licenses, but it will be part of current transfers account, or now called transfer income account. Regarding these distinctions between current and capital transfers, there will be a clear definition when there is a major catastrophic event happening, and this is covered by some insurance policy. So if it's a major catastrophic event then then the claims will be included and recorded in capital account as a capital transfer, just as well for compensation of payments if they're intended to be used for recovery of losses incurred over a multi-year period, or to replace an asset, they will be recorded as capital. As said before, depending on the type of or predominant element in the hybrid insurance, claims and premiums will be either if they are non-life, more if there is a more element to be decided that this is a non-life insurance type scheme, then the premiums and claims will be recorded in transfer income account. Regarding non-refundable contributions to government under a citizen by investment program, depending on the specific features of the program, they could be either recorded in current account or in capital account, depending on the size and the length of the program. As for capital account, there will not be so many changes in the structure, but we will have some new items, especially those related to digitalization. So crypto assets without a corresponding liability will be recorded as non-produced, non-financial assets. So Bitcoins will not be included in goods account, but in capital account. Non-fungible tokens that convey some limited commercial rights will be recorded also in a capital account. I think Patrick yesterday gave a good example for when you're downloading some picture and then printing it and paying for rights to print this picture on a t-shirt, which you will later on sell. This fee that you're paying is basically a commercial right that you're given, granted, and this should be recorded as in the capital account as contracts, lease, or licenses. Regarding market assets, there was a debate whether they should be treated as services or capital account, and at the end it was decided that their treatment will remain the same in BPM 7, so they will stay in capital account. Yesterday, I also spoke about valuation of transfer element and concessional lending. So we will not have a change in the treatment, and transfer element will be part of supplementary item for those concessional lending that can have a transfer element like concessional loans from from employer to employee. Those things will be recorded in the core elements, and this will be also explained in the BPM 7. There will be a change in the table of capital account to reflect new categories relating to digitalization. So this was the overview of the main changes in the manual, and if there are questions, okay, I see questions. If inverse merchanting happens and payments are made cross-border, ITRS will automatically record this. Yes, but there is another thing that it could happen that your resident this is only from the side of your merchant, from the merchant, if the merchanter is in your country, but they can hold accounts abroad. So then if they have accounts abroad, ITRS will not recognize these payments. So depending on where the accounts of your residents are. What is the difference between copyrights given? What is the difference between copyrights given by one brand in country A to a company working in other country B, and the factory-less goods production? In both cases, product may be sold in third country with same brand name in country A. So if I understand correctly, is the one who is providing copyrights also has a control on the production and to whom it's going to be sold? Or they're just selling copyrights?
Yeah, or yeah, I had the same impression. Is this more like intellectual property?
Yeah, we don't have if you can have some more information provided to us. Well, basically, in factory-less goods production, the principal, the one who's, first of all, they're not selling the copyright. They're providing a company that is producing with know-how, but IPP remains with the principal. And in case of factory-less goods production, principal has a lot of say in the process of production. So those are the things that could help you in distinguishing. Okay, so okay. Do we have some
No more
other
questions
questions?
here.
Okay.
No. Um, okay, we will have a session at the end of the presentations that maybe you can raise your additional questions if you have any. So what I propose to do following the agenda for today, we can have a break of 15 minutes. So meaning that we are coming back, break 15 minutes. I
Yeah.
know it's a lot of information. So I will put on my 15 minutes. What time will be? Uh,
Well, we're different time zones, so
so
it
let me
will
see.
it will be 25 to the full hour, I would say. No?
Yeah.
25 minutes to a full hour. Yeah.
So will be 1:30.
35 p.m. Bangkok time. Okay, thank
Mhm.
you.
Okay, so let's have a break. Thank you, Maya, for your
Yes,
presentation.
thank you.
Okay. Hello, colleagues. The 15 minutes are over, so let's get back to the next to last presentation for this seminar. Um, I will start with two functional classifications, and we will talk about the direct investment and portfolio investment. So as you remember very well, in the BPM 6, this topic of the direct investment and portfolio investment travel through different chapters in the BPM 6. Chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And these are the classification, financial assets, functional classification, international investment position, financial account, and other changes in financial assets and liabilities accounts will remain. So there is no changes in these chapters. We will see some additional classification, but these are the chapters that you will see the presence of the portfolio and direct investment discussions. We will have two specific assets, two specific annex. These are new, where we will talk specifically about direct investment and some selected financial issues in Annex 7. So the integrated framework, as I mentioned before, is taking relevance in the BPM 7. We know that will not only be mentioned in the BPM 7, but also will be an important new standard presentation. The idea is the same, integrated balance of payments and IIP and other flows. The integrated investment position statement is presented here. We will have the transactions that are flows explained by transactions, so we will have other flows that are explained either by revaluation or other changes. Everything will be the same, except that we will also recommend to include two additional set of information, of which, so this is not part of the standard presentation, but you can include information about cancellation or write-off of debt or reclassification. The idea is to provide additional breakdowns of what is included in other changes. In direct investment, I mentioned to you that we will have a new way of presenting information that is by sector. And this is also present in the standard components of the financial account and the IIP. Memorandum items will go with the directional principle. Then here, coming back to a topic that was already presented in the Maya presentation, the concept of the super dividends will not longer apply for direct investment. Previously, super dividends had a subsection in chapter 8 and paragraph 823. This section is removed from the direct investment, but super dividends will not totally remove from BPM 7. We'll get back when we talk about the portfolio investment. Super dividends, as also was mentioned before, will be included in dividends on equity. And dividends will be those distributions accumulated coming from accumulated reserve from ordinary earnings, and this will be treated as a dividend. And those exceptional distributions related to the sale of assets will be treated as a equity. Also, one important clarification regarding the valuation of unlisted equity is included in the direct investment. We had in the past different methods recommended for the valuation of this unlisted equity. After the deliberation among the producers of the guidance note, and also it was produced a survey to get additional information, 3 methods were recommended as preferred. The first one is the own funds at book value, that establishes to value a company at value appearing in its book, following, of course, the international accounting standards. Then we have a second method, that is the recent transaction price, that is taking into account more recent transactions. And it is desirable that this transaction should be occur within the past year. Is the most recent transactions is more than 1 year old, compilers should consider alternative methods. The other method that is recommended to use is the market capitalization, that is also based in the book values as reported by the enterprise, but consider also some macro level adjustment by the statistical compilers. These adjustments will come from other sources, for example, the ratio of the market capitalization, or can include some individual ratios that are produced from different industry groups. So it's a little bit more elaborated than the own fund at book value, but these are the 3 methods that are recommended. In the case of equity for quasi-corporation, the 3 methods presented are also recommended. Other issue that is very important when we produce the list of topics was this negative equity. The negative equity is present in many countries, and as right now there is not a final decision how this will be finally incorporated in the BPM. There are different positions regarding this. As we know, there were no explicit or specific guidance on the treatment of negative equity in the SNA or the BPM. There were some discussions in the Government Finance Statistic Manual, and these were related to incorporated corporations with limited liability. For the production of BPM 6, they take also preliminary discussions about the negative equity. It was some discussion before in the BOCOM meetings, and the recommendation at that time was to not to zero out negative equity unless there is confirmed misreporting. Now, with the preparation of the BPM 7, different options were presented. There were 4 options. Option 1, always zero out negative equity. Option 2, the opposite, never zero out negative equity. Option 3 was a little bit of a combination, zero out negative equity except for certain legal and economical cases. And option 4, do not zero out negative equity, except for specific cases where the shareholder and its affiliate liability is strictly limited. Right now, we have a colleague discussing this issue because he will do a presentation about that during the preparation of the BD4 that is in charge by the OECD colleagues and is still under discussion. So we probably will give the final decision of this discussion in the next outreach seminars. Also for the valuation of these unlisted equities, the manual will include a decision tree. Something similar about these decision trees, not exactly this one, but the idea is to help us compilers to decide one, what is the method that needs to be used, and depending on the equity that they are facing in the compilation of this data. Then this chapter will include some clarifications. We know very well that there are investment in investment fund shares, and the decision is that will always will be considered as a portfolio investment, while investment by investment funds, monetary market or non-monetary market, may qualify as a direct investment, taking into account the rules that we have for direct investment. That is, when we have a direct investment in equity that is 10% or more. If this is not taken into account, I mean, if we don't have the presence of this direct investment relationship, needs to be treated as a portfolio investment. Equity in international organizations before was also included in the BPM 6, in chapter 6, and now it's more clear the classification of this equity international organization. Before, it was not very clear if this need to be treated in other investment or indirect investment. Now the decision is that is excluded from direct investment and needs to be recorded as other equity in other investment. Excuse me. Also, there are cases when there is differences between the transaction price and the value. For instance, when we have a nominal value for loans, deposits, etc., the recording in the IIP for other type of instruments will be reflected as other price changes. Also, as we mentioned before, Annex 6 will be only tackle some particular issues in direct investment. Will develop a supplemental framework for the statistics of the ultimate invested economy and the ultimate cost economy, and also for pass-through. The supplemental framework will be applied to the development of the direct investment statistics by the ultimate invested economy and by the ultimate host economy. This information we found useful for the derivation of aggregates on the pass-through funds. The development of this additional information will be also in collaboration with national accounts. Also will include some information about mergers and acquisition, corporate inversion, and greenfield investment and extension of capacity. Mergers and acquisition will be contrasted to the greenfield investment and extensions of capacity, and there will be references to Chapter 6 on functional categories and Annex 6 on selected direct investment issues, where greenfield investment and extension capacity will be addressed for further detail. Regarding corporate inversions, the definition will be updated. Now the definition will be something like: a corporation inversion describes the corporate restructuring of a transnational enterprise group such that the original parent economy in one economy that is the ultimate parent of the corporation group becomes a subsidiary of the new parent in another economy. So what is modified in this definition is the introduction of the economy that is the ultimate parent of the corporate group. For the greenfields and the extension of capacity, in the case of greenfield are new investment. In the case of extension of capacity are investment on existing investment. Two approaches will be presented: the transactional approach and the capital approach, to distinguish very well what are these two types of investment. Also will be an expansion on the discussion of borrowing for fiscal purposes, and will be developed this public and private partnership. That is something that is more developed in the government finance statistics. Will provide some information about branches and national units in the case of PPPs arrangements, and clarify the role of economic and legal ownership of the assets in public-private partnerships. In the case of cash pooling, that we know that is not per se a financial instrument, is in any case a bank arrangement that involves deposits and loans between participants. The BPM does not a specific mention of this cash pooling arrangements. This section will try to include a description of the main type of cash pooling arrangements that can be a single legal account, physical cash pool, or notional cash pool, and the different statistical treatments. Like I summarize what I mentioned in my previous slides, we will help compilers to produce data on greenfields and investment and extensions of capacity. Also for corporated inversions, direct investment statistics for the ultimate investment economy. Direct investment statistic look through special purpose entities to the first operating unit as a first step in presenting data by the ultimate host economy. Direct investment statistic identifying pass-through funds, data for super dividends that will be reported as a supplementary basis, and direct investment intercompany lending that will be moved as a memorandum ending information as supplement to the reconciliation table. Now let me move to the portfolio investment. And here, as I mentioned before, we will have a new section for super dividends. We will not have this subsection any longer in the direct investment. And large and irregular payments made by corporations to their shareholders or owners that are funded for an accumulated reserves or sales of assets will be included in this definition of super dividends. Differences between the payment and the distribute income of relevant accounting periods is recorded as a super dividends under withdrawal of equity. Then we are bringing for portfolio investment something that is already present in other guidance, specifically in the external debt statistics. So we always mention that everything needs to be recorded to market value. But for the case of debt securities, will be expanded to include also a recommendation to compile this information in nominal value as a supplement what we record as a market value. So as we have in the external data statistics, also will be introduced a table that will permit the reconciliation between the nominal and market value of debt securities liabilities. Excuse me. Reinvested earnings, as was mentioned in the previous presentation, is added as a supplementary item in the BPM 7. Short positions, the discussion will be updated based on the information that we have in other manuals, in the Monetary Financial Statistic Manual. And also short positions that, as you may know, are generated by on-selling are recorded as a negative asset for the short seller to address the double counting of the securities by both the economic owner and the final owner, as well as the implication of who to whom presentation by the contrapart sectors and geography. This will be the clarification for short positions. Positions in unlisted portfolio of investment equity securities without an observable market price may be valued using the methods for direct investment unlisted equity. Remaining maturity will play also an important role. Was mentioned also in the external data statistics. This information is relevant for liquidity purposes because we will recommend to have the recording of debt securities under the original maturity that will be complemented also with information on the remaining maturity. This is important for the treatment of debt instruments, repay and installment. The concept for remaining maturity and its proxies or recorded will also be explained in the portfolio investment. Currency composition is information that is encouraged to be compiled. And this is everything that I need to mention about direct investment portfolio. The main issue, as we mentioned before, is this de-emphasize the classification of directional principal in direct investment, but in most of the cases, as you could see, are more clarification of extensions of the different categories that we already included. Do we have any questions for this section?
Yes, we have a question regarding the structure of the table, reconciliation integrated IIP statement. So it's thank you, Winnie from Census and Statistics Department. So thank you, Winnie. The question is, what will be the functional sector instrument breakdown requirements for presenting the integrated IIP statement? Would the requirement of reconciliation between positions and all flows for all standard components be too demanding? So this is the question. So what would be the
Yes.
elements? Yeah.
Mhm. We haven't prepared yet the table 14 that will present in black and white all the categories that we will consider a standard presentation. But as you can see so far, there are not many changes in the standard presentation that we have in the BPM 6. What we would like to see is all the classification when correspond to do, and for this integration, you know, that is mainly in the financial account, all the categories that can be compiled for the IIP and the balance of payments, of course, will be encouraged to be produced for revaluation and other changes. So if this is my understanding of your question, probably,
Yeah.
but
Well, yes.
but as you know, always we will never ask to complete a full table. You always have to compile this table based on your best effort.
Yes.
Any other question, Maya?
No, and nothing in chat.
Okay, let me move to the next presentation. I promise, we were thinking that we will have free time, but I think that we are already surpassing a little bit of the time. So I will try to move quicker with the next presentation. And this will be here we will continue with additional functional classifications in the IAP, and we will talk this time about financial derivative and other investment, and finally reserve assets. I don't need to mention again what I said in the previous presentation. Chapters are the same. This functional classification also will have a presence in these chapters. The same annexes, no, excuse me, Annex 7, and we will have Annex 8, that is the previous Annex 6 in the BPM 6. So again, the integrated, as I mentioned in the question, we will try to encourage the presentation of the components in the financial account for the integrated framework. So for the financial derivative, let me just a second, make a little change here. We will encourage new breakdowns in the financial derivatives. The breakdowns will be by instruments. So for example, if we expected to see some preparation of information for options, forwards, and related instruments, futures, swaps, credit derivatives, and marketable employee stock options. For market risk categories, of course, we would like to see some foreign exchange, single currency interest rate, equity, commodity, credit, and other risk categories. Also, information about the trading value and information about the clearing status. So if this is exchange trade, over-the-counter trade, or different other categories about the clearing of these transactions. For the financial derivatives also, the recording on net basis is acceptable if transactions in assets and liabilities are not possible to be done. or information is not available, the net compilation of this information could be acceptable. All revaluations effects that are due to other prices rather than exchange rate in BPM 6 for those type of derivatives where it may not be practical to separate the exchange rate from other revaluations. So everything that cannot be splitted or identify an exchange rate needs to be treated as other price changes. Then we will have some methodological guidance for the recording of novation and portfolio compression. Novation is a substitution of a new contract in place of the previous contract. The term of novation is frequently used in the financial derivative market, and it refers to the arrangements where a security holder transfers the securities to a clearinghouse, which then sells the transfer security to buyers. So this is a transaction that seems to be very popular in the derivative transactions, and information about this will be included. And regarding portfolio compression, as you may know, is a post-trade balance sheet reduction technique in which two or more counterparties terminate some of all of their open interest in the derivative contract, simplifying the management of this position. So this can help to freeze some value capital that could be held otherwise in unnecessarily against the observed positions. So the idea is to compress all these contracts in a new way of presenting, and this will be explained in this chapter. Also, some clarification will be included for the classification of the credit default swaps, the CDS. Financial derivatives will be discussed with new recommendations. This classification of risks that I mentioned before. We will have some definition and explanation of the different type of derivative instruments. Also recommendations about the recording of positions and transactions, valuations, and some specific issues. Hello? Reverse transactions had a big discussion during the preparation of the guidance notes. And of course, this topic is included in the BPM 6. It's not very clear. It's discussed in several parts of the compilation guide and also in the BPM 6 itself, but it's not very clear. So we will try to put more comprehensive discussions on the definition, recording, income, and valuation, and some specific issues as well. In the other investment functional classification, it will be clarifications for the subscription rights to be recorded as equity. The same will be for the equity in international organizations that recorded in the rename other equity and equity in international organizations. For factoring that allow a business to obtain immediate capital or money based on future income attribute to a particular amount due on, for example, accounting receivable or business invoice. These claims will be under factoring and recorded as a loan instead of being classified as account payable and receivable. For hybrid insurance products, as Maya mentioned, to be relocated to as a life or non-life insurance, depending about the feature that is predominant. And then we will have autonomous employer independent pension schemes to be qualified as a social insurance. As in the case of securities, is an important to include also the nominal valuation. For example, in the case of loans, will be strengthened the existing framework to allow for value the reset even beyond cases of bankruptcy and liquidation, and also for conceptional loans. Positions are valued at nominal value, and any other loan based on the contractual interest rate. So as in the case of the debt securities, a market value will be accompanied with information about the nominal valuation. Other investment and equity international organization and other equity position may be valued using the methods listed for this unlisted equity, the three methods that I mentioned before. Remaining maturity also will have an important role here, the same as we had for the securities in portfolio investment. And for the reserve, we have different add-ins to this topic in the BPM. Securities and gold collateral under repurchase agreements will be reclassified from reserve to portfolio investment. As market, central currency swap and a standard currency swap exchange of position with maintenance of the value and exchange of deposits with a financial derivative contract will be discussed in detail. Also, we will have some information about these claims on long-term loans to the IMF trust accounts, considering the new draft that is this IMF Resilience and Sustainability Trust. As you may know, this trust provide lending to low income and vulnerable middle income economies, as well as small states. This trust is designed to complement the IMF existing lending toolkit by focusing on long-term structural challenges, including climate change and pandemic issues. Contributors, loans and deposit claims will be treated as other claims, other reserved assets, and will be additional information provided in Annex 9. For frozen assets, the classification will be depending under which functional category these transactions are taking place. For example, portfolio investment. And in the case of unallocated gold accounts, recorded only in reserved assets if these transactions are taking place between monetary authorities or monetary authorities and international organizations. Then, as I mentioned before, will be a clarification, a new presentation of net international reserves, the standard statistical definition of net international reserve, NIR, based on the framework of the reserve data template that we have, and the NIR will be reserve minus net short-term foreign currency trades. I think this is my last slide. And we are finishing this presentation. And of course, the seminar for today. So I'm not sure if we have questions regarding these very quick presentations.
No, currently there's nothing in the chat box.
So there is a hand we have here, yes.
Yes, yes. Mr. Muhammad, please.
Mr. Mohammed, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Very well.
Okay, fine. So I am Mohammad Amir Hussain. I am Director of Bangladesh Bank and in charge of Balance of Payment Division. So thank you. First of all, I would like to thank to Rita Messias and Mayat for their presentations. They presented very well, elaborately. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I have I have some observations regarding a chapter, a new chapter, chapter 17. Just observations here. I had opportunity to work with United Nations in different subgroups of Islamic finance in last year. I worked with Islamic finance, United Nations. So I see that, first of all, if I mention by paragraph, by para, in para, that is first para of chapter 17 in 26.1, in the second line, it is written about there, financial institutions with Islamic windows. But
you are reading my notes.
yeah. So, you can take notes. Yes. Just I have maybe 6 observations I have in different paragraphs.
Yes,
so
please.
you can write note now.
Yes, of course.
That is paragraph 26.1, line number 2. It is written over there, financial institutions with Islamic windows. But I think this line can be revised and can be written in this way: Islamic institutions with Islamic windows and Islamic branches, or only branches, because there are different banks, conventional bank, but they are dealing with some Islamic branches. They are ideally conventional, but there are some limited few branches. So you can say financial institutions with Islamic windows and branches.
Okay.
It can be written, but these are my observations. Okay, and then para 26.4, and from the bottom, line 4, from the bottom side of the paragraph, it is written over there, Islamic finance. Finance is written in F is written in capital form, but everywhere in the report, Islamic finance is written small letter. So only this is found as capital letter. So this finance letter F can be written as a small letter, making consistent with whole of the report.
Okay.
And then para 26.5, line number 2, it is written over there, Sharia legal standards. Standard is okay, but it is more appropriate from my point of view. It may be Sharia legal requirements. When you say Sharia, then it is related to standards, but then it will be very easy for understanding if you say Sharia legal requirements, requirements instead of standards. You can think it, you will change. I'm not saying that, but this is my observations.
No, it is good to receive your observation, but also I would like to
Okay.
mention that you will have also opportunity to read the final version of this chapter when we will post it for public consultation. So,
Okay. Thank
but
you.
but we will convey all these comments to the
Yeah.
editorial
Okay.
team.
Thank you.
Thank you
And
very
then
much.
there are
There
26
are more.
point.
There are more. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. 26.13. Here in line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, line number 6, it is written over there, independent management separate from that of the conventional banks. So it is written about Sharia supervisory board. So the word independent and separate is I think these are similar words. So it can, independent, the word can be deleted because the separate word is already here, or independent can be stay here, but it will be good if you delete the word independent, because if you say management separating, so separate means this has no link with other supervisory board. Already it is separated. Already it is independent. So independent and separate, two words are, I think these are same meaning, two words. One word can be deleted. So this is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see para number 26.56. 26.56. It is the para started with the word unrestricted mudaraba. So under this para, there are two sub para. One is mudaraba not fixed deposits written. Mudaraba not fixed deposit. It is written over there, but ideally it will be easy for all to read as mudaraba on demand, because
On
not fixed
demand.
deposits. So yeah, because the word fixed should not be written over there, because it is the demand deposit. This is the current deposit. So mudaraba on demand deposits. That will
On
be
demand deposit.
very uh, uh,
More
convenient to
clear.
use here.
Okay.
And then in the next sub para, it is written mudaraba fixed deposits. So actually, it will be mudaraba term deposits. It will be easy for users, and there is no misunderstanding about this. So the word fixed and term, these are the similar words, but the term is written in the form of deposits and more frequently in Islamic finance.
Mr. Muhammad, it will be too much to ask you if you can prepare an email and send to me
I
on
will,
my
I,
lab.
I will, I will email it. Okay, I will
Yeah,
email it.
because perfect, because
Okay.
then we can convey more easily and accurate your comments to the
Exactly.
editorial.
So, okay, fine. So I have more observations, but it is better that I will retain over in the word form, and then I will send an email to you.
Okay, thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Then we have one comment here from Brunei. Yeah, this is, if I understand, okay, your question. Yes, well, this is the practice that we have right now for the
Yes.
CDIS, and I think it will not change. No, it will not change. If it's expanding to other areas, goods, services, etc., but for CDIS, there is no any intention to change the continuation of compiling and the production of the direct investment. Mhm.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So maybe what I can do, if colleagues are patient with me, is to show the website where we have all these documents that you can check. As I promised, I will do it at the end. So this is the site in the IMF website where you can see all the chapters. We have the annotated outline. So whatever the presentation we deliver during these 2 days are based on all the information that we have here, the outlines, the finance, annotated outlines, and in some cases you will see that there is the possibility to still making comments. Let me, for example, go here to this survey, and you will go to this page, and it's here when you can need to include some information, only probably with the possibility to get back to you if we need some additional clarifications, and then you register and continue the steps needed to provide your comments. So I encourage colleagues to, if you are interested, and it's super relevant for us to receive your comments, so please go to those chapters that you feel the need to provide some comments or questions regarding to what we already produce. So this is it. I don't know if there is any other question.
I don't see anything in the chat, but maybe if somebody...
So we took a little bit longer the presentation today, and excuse us because I know that is a lot of information. Even for us, it's a lot of information. So and we will highly appreciate your participation. Alik, you are here with us.
I've been in the background, but so far so good. No questions from me.
Okay, so is no any questions? I don't want to keep, because for most of you will be a day to continue working, and it's all of our appreciation for the participation in this seminar. We will continue with the work, and we will try to keep you updated on all the process that is taking us on the for 2025, hopefully the BPM 7. Maya, I don't know if you would like to add something.
No, just to thank to all the participants for active participation.
Alik, thank you so much. Everything
you.
is produced because we have always the collaboration from our nice colleagues from the UN, ESCAP. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So goodbye.
Goodbye.
And see you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We had